I'm Gregory Leland. I'm a senior at Mississippi State University, and I'm studying environmental science and GIS.
My name is Rebecca Burks, and I am a junior at Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas, and I am studying environmental studies and biology.
I'm Ashleigh Dunaway. I'm studying biological engineering at Mississippi State University. I'm entering my senior year, and I'm from Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
Hi, my name is Jaden Akers. I'm a senior wildlife fisheries and aquaculture student with a concentration in conservation biology at Mississippi State University, and I'm working in Biloxi, Mississippi this summer with the Mississippi State University Coastal Research and Extension Center.
So hi, I'm Alexis. I go to University of Massachusetts Amherst. I'm a senior there, and I do environmental science and natural resource conservation as my majors. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I'm coming down to Mississippi this summer to do cost-benefit analysis.
Hey everybody, my name is Amit. I was born and brought up in India, lived there for 15 years. I go to college now at Syracuse University in New York. This summer I'm down here in Mississippi doing research on cost-benefit analysis for Mississippi State.
Together we're working on a project that tells a story about the urban wildlife in the Jackson metro area. We'll be making a story map that kind of puts together the different points of where we find wildlife at. And I'm personally working on like more of the behind the scenes thing to get all the data together and put together videos and whatnot to make it, look pretty.
And as far as my role goes, I do more of the forward-facing side of the project, so I work directly on like the interface of the story map, which is the website-like component, and then also working with the camera studies that we get data about the wildlife from.
I'm out normally 2 days in a row, one day while the tide is high, and we will seine each site and collect all of the fish in a net that we can get there, avoiding all of the logs and hidden things in the water as we can. And then we do vegetation surveys and quadrats, so we see what vegetation is out here in the marsh and submerged to get an idea. And then we'll set up fyke nets, and then those are out here for a minimum 24 hours, and then we come back the next evening during low tide and we pick those up, and then we see those are like butted up against the marsh, so we see what kind of swims in there while the water's high, and then as the water drains out, whatever was in there stays in there, and then we just try to fight the raccoons to see what we can get back.
The work I do, I'm working with a wastewater agency utility authority to manage like septic tanks and help determine whether septic tanks are more cost beneficial than public wastewater options. And so I've been doing a lot of research with them, trying to determine like what our best options are, both for the utility authority and for residents in terms of like cost. And this ties into my sea level rise work, which is the main focus of my internship, because sea level rise is impacting these septic tanks, and the septic tanks are also harming water quality as well, and so there's like actually a lot more tie-in than meets the eye. And so a lot of my work has been doing that. The other half of my work has been designing educational outreach materials such as like infographics and helping like design published reports. And so a lot of it is just like communicating to the public while also determining like what works best for them as they plan for sea level rise and adapting to future conditions.
This experience so far has really benefited me in learning about extension and all the possibilities with extension, specifically for the camera studies that I've worked on in the past and that I can continue to work on in the future. And it's shown me also how that can interlace with like public communications and scientific communications in order to help people understand the work that scientists are doing in a really easy, generalized way.
It's just putting together my own personal interest discipline with GIS in ways that is easy to digest, more entertaining ways, and also adding like the videography effect to it as well.
A lot of my job has been designing living shorelines. So what we do is, that right over there is called a bulkhead or a seawall, and they're to prevent erosion of the lawns and the soil. However, they cause waterside erosion, and so the sediment on this side of the seawall will erode away because of the wave energy. And so we go in, and for property owners who want to decrease their shoreline erosion and protect their property, we design what are called living shorelines that implement different amounts of rocks and marsh and to create a shoreline that still allows for the interaction of flora and fauna and just promote ecological activity. So behind you is a really ugly version of what could be a living shoreline, but our ideal is to restore the shoreline as well as prevent it from eroding based on wave energy and property location. So we'll go out and do a site visit and take pictures and determine where the currents are and the elevation of the property, and then go back in and make a plan to design where we think a marsh fill might be needed, or where maybe an offshore breakwater that's made of riprap rocks might be needed, and then submit it to the property owner to get their approval, and then work with the Army Corps of Engineers to do the permitting process for a lot cheaper than you would through an engineering firm or someone like that, to make it more accessible to property owners.
For Keith's project, kind of what started Keith's project is, for most of Back Bay here, you can't really do shoreline restoration projects because of the potential impact on submerged aquatic vegetation. And so we do a lot of living shoreline restoration work. We're like, man, that's really unfortunate, because I bet the marsh is basically the most responsible for the food web here. It contributes the most to it. So Keith's project is trying to figure out if the majority of the food web relies on seagrass, or does it rely on marsh vegetation. And if it's marsh vegetation, you could basically make the case that it's more important to conserve the marsh, even if it means sacrificing some of the SAV, versus just letting the marsh erode away because the SAV is here. So
it's a really interesting field of study, because with rising seas we face a lot of problems, especially for homeowners living along the coast or along bodies of water that tend to flood during hazard events such as hurricanes. As you can see behind me and to my sides, you have houses on stilts. So the most significant part of my contributions to cost-benefit analyses in Mississippi State this summer is performing a cost-benefit analysis for the city of Biloxi to figure out whether raising houses on stilts or letting them flood and repairing the damage each time they flood are the better options, and seeing how they stack up against each other. I'm also working to compare different cost-benefit analysis softwares, because they each have their own strengths and differences, and trying to put together a report that helps our stakeholders in the region come up with a better strategy that helps them conserve money and do more with less.